Welcome to Enquiry into Self. This is the first of a 7-part series where I'm going to share my personal experience where I eventually arrive at experiencing peace as the core nature of existence, even during upheaval. So, this first part, I'm going to share an experience where I was living in Manhattan and I had a pretty good apartment in the neighborhood where I like to live. And there was another apartment that I had seen at the same time when I was looking for the apartment I lived in, and it was slightly better. So I had left a message with the person that if it became available, I'd love to live there. Well, it became available. So he called me and I said, great. And I moved out of my good apartment to the slightly better one and was really happy. And then 2.5 months in, he came to me, my roommate came to me and said, You know, I really can't handle this situation. I'm not supposed to be living with a female, and I don't believe in premarital sex. So I need you to move out. Now, my first response was not that I was excited about this. He knew I was a female before I moved in, and I already had a pretty good apartment before. So now here I was left to scramble to find another apartment. So as I started looking, I could tell that I was resenting him and I was going to leave the apartment as I moved out, feeling upset. And I didn't want to leave on those kind of terms. So I couldn't handle that lack of peace. So I had to figure out how could I see this a different way. And I knew I need to put myself in his shoes. So I looked and looked to see, what would make him bring me into his apartment and then kick me out of his apartment 2.5 months later. And I realized that for some reason he had some kindness that he thought, he'd give it a try having me in his apartment. But in the end, it was totally incongruent with what felt good to him. In fact, probably it started feeling incongruent almost right away. So for 2 months, perhaps, he had been living with this unease, having me in his apartment, and it was really a conflict inside of him. And finally, he had to be authentic and just come forward and ask that I leave. And when I realized what his experience had probably been, I had so much compassion. I mean, really, for some amount of time, he had been uncomfortable in his own home. His own home hadn't been his sanctuary anymore. So I realized, yes, of course I should leave. And I did end up finding an even better place. But I left feeling love and kindness and appreciation that he had me in his home, love and kindness and appreciation that he had ended up being authentic with me. And when I saw him on the streets thereafter, I was happily able to greet him and be interested in what was going on in his life. It was really a warm parting. Now, what happened there is I had what I thought were rights, and I had something that didn't seem fair. But I had to really step into his experience so I could discover that there was an absolute goodness running this whole thing. And my rights weren't the priority in this situation at all. And I realized, that's the source of conflict everywhere. We get lost in a sense of our rights, and we're not able to get that the other person is innocently pursuing what looks right to them. Even on the global scale, when you look at countries, they're defending what feel to them to be their rights. So, as I start to explore this, I realized that what it takes to get to peace is a deep soul searching, a deep letting go, a deep willingness to surrender my ideas, even things that seem obviously true, to let go of those ideas and truly get into the other person's shoes. So for me, this was a very significant starting place to see that peace begins with letting go of my presuppositions about what I need or what I think is right, and really opening in curiosity and discovery. And now we'll continue on to the next step that brought me to this sense of all governing peace.